Greetings and welcome to our daily Devo for Friday, December 1st. We're into that big month finally. Um, my apologies for stumbling yesterday. I'd spent most of the day working on something that I want to do for Christmas Eve at our church. And for that entire time, I was focused on trying to use the Hebrew names of characters in the Christmas story, Mary's Hebrew name being Miriam or Miriam, depending on what translator you listen to. And so I had repeated that name over and over again. And that's the only one that would come to my name yesterday instead of Martha, Mary and Martha. And that was rather embarrassing, but I gave myself a break because I'm old and my mind doesn't work like it used to. I hope you'll forgive me for stumbling there. Today's devotion's entitled The Grateful Samaritan, and our passage is from Luke chapter 17, verses 11 through 19. Two of those verses are quoted here for us. Were not all 10 cleansed? Where are the other 9? Has no one returned to give praise to God except this foreigner? If you have felt out of place or unwelcomed in society, you know how the Samaritan man felt. His story teaches us that the socially displaced have a place with Jesus. The social dislocation of this man is in part revealed by the geography. Jesus was traveling through the southern portion of the Jezreel Valley on the border between the Roman districts of Galilee and Samaria. 800 years earlier, the Assyrians had invaded this region. They brought in Gentiles who commingled with local Jews to form a new people group we know as the Samaritans. Cultural and religious differences between Jews and Samaritans birthed a legacy of tension that was alive and well at the time of this story. All 10 men in this story knew that tension well because they lived on the border between the districts, the place in which people were most prone to question, to whom were you loyal? A second dimension of social marginalization is linked with their disease. Modern leprosy, officially called Hansen's disease, is not the same as the leprosy mentioned in the Bible. This leprosy, witnessed in the first century, encompassed a variety of skin disorders that ranged from psoriasis to ringworm. The Old Testament law code called for those with such leprosy to remain socially isolated from others. That, coupled with public fear of the unknown, left lepers displaced from society and bonded to one another. Consequently, here was one place Jews and Samaritans found common cause. As Jesus approached these 10 lepers living on the border, they cried out for his help. He sent them to the priests in Jerusalem, who doubled as the public health officers. For those in the Jewish world, the priests could offer the bill of good health that allowed for a full return to Jewish society. The Samaritan man went along with his friends as instructed, although the declaration of the Jewish priest would have had little consequence for him. On the way, all were healed. Imagine the joy of all 10 of them. And imagine the quandary of the Samaritan. He no longer shared a disease with the other 9. He did not share their Jewish faith. And he had spent so much time with Jewish lepers that the prospect of a return to Samaritan culture was uncertain. He was displaced from every place except one. So he rushed back, fell at Jesus' feet, and gave thanks. And as he does, he leaves us with this lesson. The socially displaced have a place with Jesus. I wonder sometimes if many of us have missed the point. Jesus and Samaritans interact repeatedly, even though for most Jews, well, they didn't even want to walk through Samaria, even though the direct route from south to north or north to south would have been easier to travel. They weren't having anything at all to do with Samaritans. They would take the long way around. They hated Samaritans, half-breeds they'd call them, because of the intermixing of conquering peoples that had come into the northern part of the nation of Israel and had intermarried and all those kinds of things. And yet Jesus interacts with them, with a Samaritan woman at a well. There's strike two right there. Samaritan and a woman. Strike three is the kind of lifestyle she lived. He sat with her. He talked with her. He made a Samaritan the hero of a story that every person knows, the Good Samaritan. That is an oxymoron to Jewish minds. And now here, 9 out of the 10 were Jews. 1 was a Samaritan, and he's the only one who comes back to Jesus and says, thank you. I have found, by God's grace, in my great opportunity to travel, we dare not be proud that we're a certain color or we're from a certain country, because many people in many places are living out that faith, sometimes even more powerfully than we are, because they have to struggle in it. And so many things seem to come too easy for us. We don't have to really extend faith too much to have what we want, to be where we want to be. And so we, unfortunately, in our history, the church has not always been on the side of the oppressed. Preachers in the South used to preach that slavery was okay because the people who were enslaved were not fully human. Even our own Constitution rated slaves as only 3/5 human. Jesus keeps painting this picture of people that are outcasts to everybody else find welcome with him. Again, that woman at the well, Samaritans, tax collectors, lepers. So many people outcast for one reason or another. Jesus welcomes. And if we are going to be followers of Jesus, that needs to be us too. We welcome. Even if we don't agree with the lifestyle, even if we don't agree with the way they do things, we welcome. For how else will we get the opportunity to know them? How else will we get the opportunity to show them the love of Christ, minister to them in their lives so that they see something different in us? Because right now, especially in America right now, when you say the word evangelical, a lot of people recoil because all they see is an extreme right-wing political party, which closes the door for us to be able to share the gospel of Christ with them. And that's the way to change people's lives. To live the gospel, share the gospel, and we don't judge and we don't condemn. The verse right after John 3:16 says that Jesus did not come to condemn. He didn't come to judge. He came to save. And our mission is the same mission as his. Blessings to you today on this first day of December.